I thought I'd take a moment to talk about this whole Eric Garner and Michael Brown situation. A month has passed since the grand jury decided not to indict in either of these cases, and the whole situation has devolved into a quagmire. And it's just a mess. It's not Nobody knows what they're fighting for anymore. Nobody has an idea of what they're even protesting about. I just see people, they're just marching and protesting, carrying signs, and none of it makes any sense. And I've seen it's totally devolved from an issue of so-called Black Lives Matter, um, the mistreatment of black men by police, and the violation of black men's civil rights into this. It's like here in New York, it's devolved into this whole. It's been turned into an issue of white people versus black people, and it's disturbing to me. It's instead of it being, it's really what it is, not just white people versus black people. Really, it's white black people versus white cops, and it's not that's not really what it's really about. And black leadership has really failed, and I see how they have completely failed in this whole situation with Eric Garner and Michael Brown, and they have failed worse than in any other time in the history of black civil rights. I mean, if you really look at it, it's a complete disaster of how they have lost focus. I mean, I look at the whole Eric Garner and Michael Brown situation. There is no focus. There is no set goal. There is no agenda. I mean, everything is just directionless. And ever since the Eric Garner grand jury refused to indict, I just seen in the last 2 weeks just complete deterioration of the situation here in New York City. Um, just a complete deterioration. We've gone from people marching and protesting saying Black Lives Matter to these fringe groups jumping on talking about they want dead cops and they were attacking police officers and assaulting police officers to the murders of no, not Rod, of officers Ramos and Lou here in New York City. Because this mentally disturbed individual went and decided he wanted to kill police officers. And then we have people making threats on the lives of police officers. And this situation has turned into a complete and utter quagmire. We had police officers turning their backs on the mayor, um, and it's just turned into a disaster. And everybody's lost focus. Everybody's lost direction. We have lost everybody on both sides, black, white, police officers, law enforcement. There is no direction and no set sense of where anybody wants to go. I just see just utter and complete chaos. It's just nobody knows what they want. We have people just marching and rallying with no real plan towards going towards anything. It's almost like the civil rights movement after integration. It would just I think about that in historical context, um, because after then, all these people piggybacked on it, and that's what happened in this whole Eric Garner situation. We went from Black Lives Matter to this whole ridiculous. You have people talking about dead cops. They want to kill police officers, and that's not what it's about. Um, it's not what That's not what it should be about. That's not what the whole thing should be about. It should be, and then we have Al Sharpton on the other side talking about he wants justice, and that's a broad term. That's not a goal. I mean, a leader comes up with goals. Like if I was the leader, I would be saying my goals would be getting Officer Panarello and the supervisors and the people behind him that day terminated from the New York City Police Department. That'd be one of the goals. The other goal would be to get a federal indictment for violation of Eric Garner's civil rights. And if it was Ferguson, it would be the same thing with was getting a federal indictment against Michael Brown. But you know, black leaders really don't have a comprehensive plan, and they don't set up goals, and they don't have an agenda. They just sit there and they just marching and protesting and rallying. You have random people marching, protesting, and rallying, and they have no goals, they have no direction, and they have no plan. And that's one of the big problems with this whole situation. And that's why it's deteriorated so badly, because you have all these people, like in the post civil rights period. No, not post civil rights period, but what period was it again? It was right after the Voting Rights Act of 1964 and the Civil Rights Acts of 1964 passed. We had all of these people, Hispanics, white women, jumping on the black civil rights movement, and they took the entire movement completely off course. And the black community got fragmented, it started losing direction, and that's why we weren't able to grow the black community, because everybody jump when they got integrated, started jumping on other, letting a lot of people piggyback on the black civil rights movement. And that's what's happening right now. All these people are piggybacking and jumping on. You have these anarchists, these people who hate police officers, and you have all sorts of people just jumping on this using the Eric Garner and Michael Brown indictment as an excuse to participate in lawless and reckless behavior. Now, anybody who is making a protest, again, would be focusing on Officer Panarello and talking about legal precedents that even Mayor Rudy Giuliani used to terminate Officer Justin Volpe before he was brought to justice in front of a federal court for civil rights charges. Because if you look back at the Justin Volpe situation, Mayor Giuliani, right then and there, he had this man terminated. He made sure that this man was terminated because he saw that he violated the Admiral Loomis civil rights, and he did not want the police department to look bad. But when we look at Mayor Bill de Blasio, he has totally mishandled the situation here, and he has allowed the situation to completely deteriorate. Because I'm one of these guys. I'm looking at the big picture, and I'm looking at everybody's actions, and he has clearly allowed the situation here to deteriorate. And he's made he's put every officer's life at risk, and he's put other officers in danger by not separating the officers in the Eric Garner situation and their behavior from the other 35,000 police officers. And that's what led to Officers Ramos and Wenjin Liu being murdered by this mentally deranged man who was sitting there. He was like a lot of these black men. They watch these YouTube videos, they reading a lot of stuff on the internet, and he's mentally ill. He's not processing this information because he has no critical thinking skills, because he has a mental health issue, and he's watching watching these videos and reading this information and watching things on TV, and it's all hyped up, and he goes out and decides he's going to kill police officers based on this plethora of misinformation he has received. And anybody who's objective looks at the information and says, what has to happen here? Again, it was a total deterioration of the situation, and that's part of it. That's part of one of the reasons why people turn their back on Bill De Blasio. I know I'm going back and forth here, but the officers turned their back on him because he allowed the situation to deteriorate. And if he had did what Rudy Giuliani did and just separated these individual officers who had acted inappropriately from the rest of the department, it would have alleviated a lot of the situation. It would have, helped ease some of the tensions. But what he did was he comes out with a disingenuous statement about his son Dante, and that escalated things. And you have to understand how to de-escalate a situation, and you have to understand police policy. And Mayor Bill de Blasio doesn't understand these things. What he did was he just allowed it to escalate and deteriorate, and that's why we have so strained relations here in the police departments and the mayor's office. And this is the same thing with the black community. There's because there's no focus, no direction, no communication, and I really am critical of Mayor Bill de Blasio because he's not being a leader. What he's doing is he's allowing the situation to lead him. And I go back to something I learned from watching Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen. He said a statement on numerous times on the show: "You either run the kitchen or the kitchen runs you." And what's happening with the mayor, Bill de Blasio, is that he's allowing the mayor's office. He's not running the city. The city is running him, and he's being dictated to by police union people, Al Sharpton, and everybody else. Because I remember watching an interview where him and Bill Bratton were sitting there at the earliest case part of the Eric Garner situation, and he did not give any fight back when Al Sharpton got in his face. And we all know Al Sharpton is one of the weakest black leaders out here. And he sat there and just allowed Al Sharpton to get in his face and allowed him to bully him. And, I look at what happened. I'm not a big Rudy Giuliani fan, but his leadership was a lot stronger than Bill de Blasio's. And, he would have pushed back. And the whole thing is that he wouldn't have let somebody like Al Sharpton just push him around like that. And that's really dangerous when you have a city like New York City, because lived here for ever since I was born. I'm 41 years old, and I haven't seen a mayor that weak since David Dinkins. And when you have a mayor weak like that, that's going to lead to it enables anarchists and other dysfunctional individuals to feel that they have a sense of power. And this is how our city deteriorated ever since from the 70s up until about 93. Because, not even 93, 95, I would say 95, but it had deteriorated into a cesspool. And because we had weak leaders who catered and deferred to dysfunctional individuals, they made excuses for them, they tolerated them, and you have to set a line in the sand. And this is the big problem with our mayor, is that he does not set that line in the sand. He does not dictate the terms, and he does not, command leadership. He does not command leadership or take responsibility. He keeps deferring and deflecting and making disingenuous statements like the one he made about his son Dante. And instead of just saying, look, grand jury has spoken. I mean, you may not agree with that grand jury decision, but if you want things to change, you're going to have to do something other than marching and protesting. I mean, we all know the police system and the jury system is made by the people. If we look at the first three letters of the words of the Constitution, it's we the people. And we the people have to, if we don't like something in our government, we have to make efforts to change it. And the big problem with black people is we don't make any efforts to change it. We don't participate in the system, and we don't take constructive action. And that's the big problem with this whole Eric Garner and Michael Brown situation, is that we have a bunch of people walking around, marching and protesting, but not putting anything together in a comprehensive plan. There's no goals. Again, like I said earlier in this video, no set of goals, no real comprehensive plan. It's just people talking about they want justice. They're asking people like Eric Holder and Barack Obama, again, two more disingenuous individuals, to give them justice. But I mean, people, they just don't understand. You're not going to get justice that way, just asking for justice or marching and protesting. Because I look at it and go, black folks and people all over the country have been marching and protesting for over a month. And if we look in contrast to the Sony Pictures situation with The Interview, North Korea took action and got an $80 million movie pulled from theaters across the world in less than a week. And why? Because they understood that in America, it's a business. And in a business, people follow the dollars. And what he did was he hacked their system. Yeah, it was illegal, but he hacked Sony's system. He revealed information that was damaging to Sony. And at the end of the day, he got that $40 million movie pulled and cost Sony $80 million, because movies, if you look at movies, and I know movies, a movie costs more than $40 million. That's just the production budget. There's the advertising budget and the promotion budget, which is another $40 million. So he cost Sony $80 million, and they barely recouped that with this limited run. But he took constructive action. And with the whole Eric Garner situation, it's turned into a quagmire. And the sad part is, black people had an opportunity to make a statement about how Black Lives Matter, but they didn't take it. I mean, the Michael Brown indictment, I look at it, was the Tuesday before the week before Black Friday. The indictment in the Eric Garner situation was the Tuesday before Black Friday. They were within a week of each other. And in both cases, what did black people do? I mean, here you have the day, Black Friday, the biggest shopping day in America. And what did black people do? They went to the store. They bought their big screen TVs. They bought their Air Jordan tennis shoes. They bought their weaves. They had their Christmas. And here was an opportunity for them to make a statement to America that if Black Lives matter, then you can't have, if Black lives don't matter, you can't have the black dollar. And that is the statement they should have, black people all across this country should have made. If black lives don't matter, you don't get an opportunity to get the black dollar in your till. And I guarantee you, big business would have done this. Okay, we need to do something about this. We need to do something about these rogue officers. We need to do something about police policy. We need to do something about racial profiling because we don't want to lose the $3.3 trillion in cash and credit spending power that black people have. Because the only way to show that Black Lives Matter is to show people the power of the black dollar. But sadly, most black people do not understand this and do not understand this approach. And when they did try to do it, it came across as dysfunctional and codependent. Because what I saw people doing was standing in front of a Macy's, standing in front of stores holding signs, and that's not constructive action. Constructive action would have been all these black people to just not spend their money. But this is what they did. It was divided, and that's the big problem with this whole Eric Garner, Michael Brown situation is that everybody's just so divided. There is no direction. There is no focus. There is no. Again, I keep saying this again and again because it is the truth. No direction, no focus, no set of goals, and no plan. And nobody is looking at the big picture. I mean, I can look at the whole situation and I can see where this whole quagmire it's just turned into a quagmire. And instead of it being about black men and having their civil rights violated, it has turned into a because when Officer Ramos and Lou were killed here in New York, it turned into a black people versus the police situation, and really it turned into a black-white situation because I watched the news and it turned into we white people on the other side, which represented the cops, and this is what the news media did, versus black people in the neighborhood, and it's totally deteriorated. We have lost completely what the focus of all of this is about. It is about black men not feeling safe, not feeling secure, um, and that their lives do not have any value. That's what the situation is supposed to be about. But what happened here is that it's turned into a quagmire, and it's turned into nobody knows what it's about. I mean, Eric Garner has been lost, and it's black people versus the police, and I hate white people, and I hate black people, and it's just totally devolved. And nobody knows what it truly is about. And I look at the disingenuousness also of Barack Obama and Eric Holder. Eric Holder, who knew he was going to resign on January 1st, and he said he would look into the matters of Eric Garner and Michael Brown. And here he is a man who said way back in August he was leaving, and then Barack Obama, what he does is he picks another woman, and the Senate still hasn't confirmed her. So this whole thing we're talking about, they want federal civil rights charges. You guys need to understand this is a chess game you're being played with, and you've already been checkmated. The whole thing is that by the time they confirm her, the black woman that they picked, and she gets up to speed, Barack Obama's term is over. The new president comes in. He's picking a new attorney general, and Eric Garner and Michael Brown are going to be in a garbage can. Nothing's going to get done. All because black people just can't look at the big picture. They're still playing Candyland when the rest of the world is playing chess. And this whole Eric Garner and Michael Brown situation, pretty much nothing's getting done because black people really don't have a plan, they don't have a direction, and our black leaders are just totally incompetent. And instead of black people telling our leaders they need to take a hike, they're just sitting there, still marching and protesting with them, hoping for change, when the only change they're getting is the same is what's in their pocket. That's what they're getting. Because no one has a goal here. Nobody has a direction here. I keep saying that. I know I keep saying it, but this is what we have. We've gone, and when I really look at the whole thing, is that we've allowed it to get hijacked. I mean, the people who were assaulting police officers were not black people. If you look at here in New York, the guys who were attacking police officers, it was a white CUNY college professor and a Hispanic woman and another white man. And he was throwing garbage cans off the Brooklyn Bridge. And the person who killed the police officer was not here from New York. It was again, a mentally unstable black male. And he, again, taking information from YouTube, videos he saw, misinformation from YouTube, taking misinformation from the internet, Facebook groups, Instagram, this type of stuff. And he was mentally ill, could not process the information properly. And what he did was he went out and murdered these officers. And then other people, like Pat Lynch, decided to take this and polarize it and turn it from a situation where we're trying to change police policy so that black men won't be racially profiled, assaulted, harassed, and turned it into a black-white situation where it's black people versus the police. And that's not what this is about at all. This is about rogue officers like the like Justin Volpe and the actions of Officer Panarello, which are seen on video, uh, when he's choking out Eric Garner. This is we have Commissioner himself saying this is a chokehold on video. We have him on tape saying that this is a chokehold, and then this is what we want to do. This is the goal we should have. Let's get this man terminated and establish a policy that officers, people who will violate police policy, cannot wear this badge. And this is what the goal should be, and this is another goal should be trying to foster a better relationship with the black community. Again, to see how easy this is. I'm coming up with goals, and sadly, our mayor can't come up with. He can't set a goal, and Al Sharpton can't set a goal. These are goals. This is doable. When you have a plan and a direction, you can get things done. But our leaders are about polarizing and getting money for themselves, and not about improving the quality of life here in New York City and in places like Ferguson. And on the other side of it, when we didn't get that indictment again, Black Friday, opportunity right there to make a statement, and black people didn't make the statement. Which shows me, again, really, a lot of black folks aren't genuine about this. And that's why I say it's turned into a quagmire, and it's turned into a lot of shouting back and forth um, at each other. And it's truly showed the dysfunction and codependency that blacks and whites have here in the United States. And regarding the issue of race, because instead of us having a dialogue on race and a dialogue about police policies and stuff like that, it's just turned into an us versus them thing. And I've had union jobs, and a lot of union jobs do that. They create this us versus them mentality, and that's not what this is about. This is about taking constructive action that will fix and solve the problems. But again, a lot of people on either side, like especially when I talked about this Negro, he doesn't want solutions. A lot of these white people don't want solutions. They want to remain in this codependent situation where they both try to vie for the position of the victim because they believe the position of the victim is power. And the position of the victim is not power. What it is a race to the bottom. And that's what we're seeing with this whole Eric Garner and Michael Brown situation, is this race to the bottom. Because the whole situation is completely deteriorated. We have no direction, no focus, just people walking around, marching and protesting with no idea of what they're protesting for, what they're protesting about. They're just spouting slogans like Black Lives Matter, even though the number one killer of black men is black men. And really, I look at the picture. What's really dysfunctional about it is we don't have black men as leaders of this movement. I've heard from Eric Garner's widow. I've heard from Eric Garner's mother. I've heard from Eric Garner's daughters. I've heard from Michael Brown's mother. Again, this is all being led by black females. If this is an issue about black men, we need to start hearing from black men. And black men need to start leading the movement. And this is the big problem I'm seeing here, is that there are no black men taking the lead here to talk about the rights of black men. Because if black lives matter, if black men's lives matter, because that's really what it should be, the statement here, it should be. It should be that black men's lives matter, not black lives matter, because that's too general. Because the number one person being profiled here is black men. And the big problem with this whole movement is we don't see any black men taking the lead, making a statement about why black men's lives matter. And that's one of the big observations I have with this whole situation. Um, I don't see any black men coming out and saying that their lives matter. I see a lot of women at the front talking about the value of black men's lives. And that's not going to help make a statement about anything. We need to hear from black men. We need to see black men. And nope, we need not guys like Al Sharpton. We need to see regular Joes like myself at the forefront of this movement. If you want to have a movement, you need a black man talking about these issues. And that's not what we're seeing. That's why it's turned into such a quagmire, because there are no black men taking a lead on this. It has turned into, I mean, you have all the females making a statement about Black Lives Matter, and you see a lot of this protesting. You don't see a single black man at the forefront outside of Al Sharpton and the usual suspects. And I feel that the movement for Eric Garner would have been, and Michael Brown would have been more effective if we had black men at the forefront, but we don't have that. And that's why it's turned into a quagmire. There's no black men talking about Black Lives Matter, because in order for us to understand that Black Lives Matter, we need to see black men saying that they are valuable, that they have a sense of worth. But your average black man does not have that self-esteem and the self-confidence to say that about himself, that his lives matter, that his life matters, because he's too busy putting value on other things like Air Jordan tennis shoes, gold chains, rims, tires, big screen TVs, women. Everything has more value in a black man's life to him than himself. He has no sense of dignity. He has no sense of self worth. I mean, if you look at your average black male, he doesn't make his life matter. And that's what's the crux of this whole situation. That's what makes it so bad, because here is a chance for the black man to make a statement about himself, and he's got his woman making a statement for him. And that's why I look at this whole Eric Garner and Michael Brown situation. That's the saddest part of the whole situation, is that you have the black woman at the forefront leading you a cause to say that black men's lives matter and that the black man is supposed to be valuable. And it's not himself. And it shows you how bad things have deteriorated for the African American male here in society, that his woman has to speak for him and make statements for him. And instead, he's not making a statement for himself. There is no such thing, I mean, as men saying to themselves, look, my life matters. I have a sense of worth. I have a sense of value. I mean, it's just a bunch of dusty guys nowadays in the black community, because black men have really fallen off in 25 years since I was in high school. I mean, I've really seen black men just completely fall apart. And this is like almost, I mean, it's not the rock bottom point. The Eric Garner and Michael Brown is not the rock bottom. I mean, I don't know what'll be, because this is almost as bad as Emmett Till, but I feel like we haven't hit the bottom yet, because black men have not gotten up and say to themselves, look, I'm in a bad situation. I need to get it together. Because I see black men outside, they're standing outside these foreign owned stores. I mean, I remember just a couple of weeks ago, me and a family member, we were going to get them some supplies so they could go do their job at school. And this guy wearing a pair of brand new sneakers, a leather jacket, and carrying an iPhone comes up to me to ask me for $1. And this is the situation that black males have become. You're standing outside of a red and white foreign owned chicken place, wearing expensive sneakers, carrying an expensive phone. You're going to ask me for $1. And instead of going inside that store you're standing outside of and asking that man for a job. This is the sad state that black men are in. I mean, you're basically showing that you don't have any value. And then if you don't show that you have value, how can others value you? And this is the sad state that black men have become. And you got women fighting for your cause. You got guys marching you got people marching and protesting, but you're not making the statement for yourself. The only person who can show that black lives matter, black men's lives matter, because it's not black lives, it's black men's lives that matter. Because black men are the only ones being killed as black men. And that we really, really need to look at this and come to understand it for what it is. Because I look at the whole Eric Garner and Michael Brown situation, and again, it's a quagmire, and it's because black men are not taking the lead and fighting for their own life in this society. Everyone else is making a statement about black men, but black men. But this black man is making a statement about it in this video. And I'm hoping that other black men watch this video and come to understand, especially the last 5 or 10 minutes, what what we need to do, because we really need a mission, we really need a direction, we really need to set some goals, and we really need to set a focus. And that's not being done here, and that's why the whole Eric Garner and Michael Brown situation has deteriorated and turned into this quagmire of black people versus white police officers. And that's not what it's about at all. It's about getting things done and changing police policy, and changing police policy. That's the first part. Changing legal policy and showing that black men have value because they understand how to use the system and how to get things done. It's not going to be marching and protesting that does things. It's going to be constructive action, and we really need to start getting focused on constructive action. Um, and we also need to show that we matter by putting value on ourselves, and that's the big problem with black men, is that everything has more value than they do. They put value on things that have no value. Really, black men, we got to get our priorities straight. We got to get ourselves together. A lot of us really need to start waking up and getting our stuff together, because the only person who is going to show that a black man's life matters is a black man. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.